Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome, everyone. Both of you. I'm Tony Argento. I'm your hostess with the mostest for the day shows today and tomorrow. We're going to have 6 different sets each day. This is our 7th annual Lost in Lava Cowboy Gathering, and we're glad that both of you are here. These gentlemen are going to come up here and share their talents with you on this wonderful stage. And before we begin, I would like to thank the young man behind the camera, Mr. Payson Reese, for all his attributes, his contributions, his time, and all the volunteering he's done to make this event the spectacular event that it is. Let's hear it for Payson Reese. And Chris, our sound man, let's give a nice thank you to Chris. Yep. And here we go. Our first set of the day. We've got 7 gentlemen right here, all wonderful friends that I consider true friends. The Idaho Poets for you. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Are you a cowboy poet?
I've been accused of a lot of things.
I know you have.
Yeah, that gentleman part that he said kind of threw me, but I'm not used to that.
Our time's burning. Do your poem.
Okay, do my poem. He looked down into the chute at a bull they call the Killer, a real outlaw. He had to, as he slid down on his back, he had to smile to himself what the cowboys call the luck of the draw. At the end of 8 seconds, are they going to say he's the best, or will he be laying in the dirt, hurt and broken like all the rest? Now, many a cowboys tried to ride this bull for 8 seconds to no avail. They say this bull was born and bred somewhere close to hell. Now, 6 seconds into that ride, things went from bad to worse as he slipped down in the well, and a crushing blow from the bull's left horn knocked him out. The rest he couldn't tell. 3 days later, he woke up in some place they call intensive care. Through the swollen and bloodshot eyes, he couldn't believe the beauty of the nurse standing there. Weeks later, he left that hospital, limping, with wires still in his jaw. And as that nurse slipped him her phone number, again he had to smile at the luck of the draw.
Didn't come here to lose. Oh, you came here to win. Rodeo rider. Better tighten your grip. Got the devil's hurt from down below for you to ride today. These bulls and broncs are the rankest ones you'll ever find today. Rodeo rider, oh, you're gonna earn your pay. Rodeo rider, you're gonna ride the devil's hurt today. Well, open the gate and let 'em out, watch you buck away. You better pray an angel from up above is riding with you today. These bulls and broncs from down below learn the devil's way. Better cowboy up and hunker down. You're gonna ride the devil today. Rodeo rider, oh, you're gonna earn your pay. Rodeo rider, you're gonna ride the devil today. 8 seconds of hell in the back of the beast. Will you prove yourself today? 8 seconds of hell and a judge's score. Will you earn your pay today? Rodeo rider, oh, you're gonna earn your pay. Rodeo rider, you're gonna learn to pray today. Didn't come here to lose. boys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got time for one more.
Okay.
Let's do Cowboy two-step.
Okay.
He's been working hard all week, riding range with his dog Pete, fixing fence and checking on his cattle. With his bedroll on the ground, nighttime rolls around, he'll stare at the stars and dream that cowboy two-step. But he's not looking for romance, he just wants a gal to dance, to guide across that floor with a cowboy two-step. He'll hold him in her arms, twirl her with his charm, but all that cowboy wants to do is dance the two-step. Well, the weekend rolls around, he's headed into town. His dog Pete is riding right beside him, while they're headed for a bar called that Lucky Star, to find a gal and dance that cowboy two-step. But he's not looking for romance, he just wants a gal to dance, guide across that floor with a cowboy two-step. He'll hold her in her arms, twirl her with her charm, all that cowboy wants to do is dance the two-step. Well, in the morning you can bet he'll be back on the range, building up that ranch he's always dreamed of. But when he decides to find himself a bride, you can bet the Lucky Star she'll dance the two-step. He's not looking for romance, he just wants a gal to dance, guide across that floor with a cowboy two-step. He'll hold her in his arms, twirl her with his charm, but all that cowboy wants to do is dance the two-step. But when he decides to find himself a bride, you can bet the Lucky Star she'll dance the two-step. And she'll hold him in her arms, she'll twirl him with her charm, and that cowboy and his bride will dance the two-step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on. Hey, thank you, Dave and JB. We have assembled the finest talent west of the Mississippi, representing the Cowboy Poets of Idaho here today, as you will see and have already saw. I'm Tommy Patton. I live in Gooding, and I'd like to start this with a poem I just wrote. I hope I've got it memorized, but this is its first time out for human consumption. I don't know how many of you have ever been around tobacco chewers. I had some association with some, and so I wrote this poem. It's called Beggars and Chewers. In Boise, at the exit of I-84 and Broadway, sits a beggar, and he works there every day. The time it takes for the light to change is quite a while, so he holds up his sign and fakes a smile. And we've all heard that little rhyme. Hey, buddy, can you spare a dime? They all have heart-wrenching stories, and you give a buck or two, but nothing as pathetic as a cowboy that's run out of chew. As in, hey, Bob, I'll pay you back in a week or two, but right now, could I bum a chew? To smokeless tobacco, he'll always be a fan. In desperation, he's licking the bottom of the can. Of all the guys I've ridden with from spring to fall, chewers are the worst beggars of them all. Be a he-man cowboy with a pinch between the cheek and gum. Don't worry about cancer to which you may succumb. How about your first chew, man or boy or somewhere in between? And if you can recall, did your face turn green? Cowboys still like their Copenhagen soaked in rum, but the baseball players have all went to bubble gum. Is a circle worn on your pocket and the front stained up and down? Is the door on your pickup turning an ugly shade of brown? In the spitting contest, did you win show or place? Or were you eliminated and can't show your face? On your snuff box is an engraved silver lid. Brings back some memories, some really dumb things you did. A parting gift from your third ex-wife. Man, that shoe can sure enough mess up your life. Oh, AJ had a face as disfigured as ever you saw. Filled with beech nut, looked like a Hereford cow with lump jaw. Days work in horseshoe were plugs you cut with a knife, with ingredients known to shorten a lab rat's life. Different flavors from mint to honey to raspberry you can pursue. And in the sack, it's Red Man, Mail Pouch, and Beech Nut, to name a few. So for whatever variety you choose and your money to spend, just remember, my friend, you can't spit into the wind. Thank you. Well, this is a poem I wrote a long time ago about incidents where I work over in Harney County, Oregon. We're running 600 pairs up on the Malheur Forest. There's no facilities up there as far as putting any corrals or chutes. So, you know, if you found something, you just did the best you could with what you had at the time. And I call this good old WD-40. Now, Bob and Johnny and I were up on the mountain one late summer day, just doing what cowboys do, earning our pay. A pair crossed the road in front of us looking so fine, but the calf had a protrusion sticking out from behind. We unloaded her horses and built a loop, and it circled her neck in one fell swoop. It wouldn't win any money at an NFR round, but there she was, stretched out, laying on the ground. Now, a prolapse on one so young and live is certain to get sympathy from your dear wife. Now, on this prolapse, the maggots were having a feast, showing no mercy on this poor little beast. Putting the prolapse back in was no big deal, but it was covered with maggots, and they were real. And what do we have, the doctor with you inquire? A can of WD-40, some LA-200, and a piece of electrical wire. Now, WD-40 comes in a little can that's yellow and blue. It frees nuts and bolts so they spin like new. Every mechanic's got a can on the bench or in his toolbox. It's good for squeaky parts and rusty locks. On the can it says, if swallowed, it can be fatal. Just what we need to win the battle. By using the brain in my old head, that WD-40's turning them maggots plumb dead. Now, on this occasion, it worked the best as we put WD-40 to the test. Not real high on a maggot's diet, but it's sure enough to work. Just try it. And then, just as pretty as you please, all lubed up with WD-40, it slid back in with ease. Then, using the wire, we laced her up just like a shoe. Oh, good job, boy. She looks pert near new. And we gave her a big old shot of LA-200 and turned her loose as Johnny begged Bob for a pinch of snooze. Now, on the little can of yellow and blue can be added the words, it's hell on maggots too. So we left her up there a long way from the city, the only calf on the mountain, wired for electricity. Thank you. Brian Dilworth. What? Oh.
His writing's getting better every time I hear him. He's coming up with a new poem. I'm going to do a few old classics, I guess, 10 minutes worth or so. I'll start out with the first one I ever committed to memory, which was, I dropped the first lines a couple weeks ago, though. I'll pick them up for you if you tell me where you left them. Okay. All right. Yeah, how do you drop it if you don't even start? It's all very well to write reviews, to carry umbrellas and to keep dry shoes, to say what everyone's saying here and to wear what everyone else must wear. But tonight I'm sick of the whole affair. I want free life and I want fresh air. And I sigh for the canter after the cattle, the crack of the whips like shots in battle, the memory of hooves and horns and heads, that wars and wrangles, scatters and spreads, the green beneath and the blue above, the dash and danger and life and love and Laska. Laska used to ride on a mouse-gray Mustang close by my side. With blue serape and bright belt spur, I laughed with joy when I looked at her. Little knew she of books and creeds. An Ave Maria sufficed her needs, and little she cared, save to be at my side, to ride with me, and ever to ride from San Saba's shore to Lavaca's tide. She was as bold as billows that beat, and she was as free as the breezes that blow. From her little head to her little feet, she was swayed in suppleness to and fro by each gust of passion. A sapling pine that grows on a Kansas bluff and wars with the wind when the weather gets rough was like this Laska, this love of mine. She would hunger that I might eat, take the bitter, leave me the sweet. But once, when I made her jealous for fun at something I'd whispered, looked at, or done one Sunday in San Antonio to a glorious girl at the Alamo, she drew from her garter a sweet little dagger, and sting of a wasp, it made me stagger. 1 inch to the left or 1 inch to the right, I wouldn't be maundering here tonight. But she sobbed, and sobbing so swiftly bound her torn rebozo about the wound that I quickly forgave her. Scratches don't count in Texas, down by the Rio Grande. Well, her eye was brown, a deep, deep brown, and her hair was darker than her eye, and something in her smile and frown curled crimson lip and instep high showed that in each blue vein, mixed with the milder Aztec strain, flowed the vigorous vintage of old Spain. And she was alive in every limb with feelings to the fingertips. But when the sun is like a fire, and the night's one shimmering soft sapphire, one does not drink in little sips. Well, the air was heavy, the night was hot. I sat by her side and forgot the herd that was taking their rest, forgot the night that was close oppressed, that a Texas norther comes sudden and soon, in the dead of the night or the blaze of the noon. And once the herd in their breath take fright, nothing on earth can stop their flight. And woe to the rider and woe to the steed that falls in front of their mad stampede. And was that thunder? I clasped the cord of my swift Mustang without a word. I sprung to the saddle, she clung behind, away on a hot chase down the wind. And never was fox hunt half so hard, and never was steed so little spared, for we rode for our lives. You shall hear how we fared in Texas, down by the Rio Grande. Well, the Mustang flew, and we urged him on. There's one chance left, and you have but one. Halt, jump to the ground, and shoot your horse. Crawl under his carcass and take your chance, and if the herd in their frantic course don't batter you both to pieces at once, you can thank your stars. And if not, goodbye to the quickening kiss and the long-drawn sigh and the open air and the open sky in Texas down by the Rio Grande. Well, the cattle gained on us, and just as I felt for my old six-shooter behind in my belt, down came the Mustang, and down came we, clinging together. And what was the rest? A body that placed itself on my breast, 2 arms that sheltered my weary head, 2 lips that hard to my lips were pressed, and then came thunder in my ears as over us surged a sea of steers, and blows that beat blood into my eyes. And when I could rise, Alaska was dead. Well, I dug out a grave a few feet deep, and there in the earth's arms I lay her to sleep. And there she's lying, and no one knows. And the summer suns and the winter snows, and for many a day now the flowers have spread a pall of petals o'er her head. And the little gray hawk hangs aloft in the air, and the sly coyote trots here and there. And the black snake slides and glitters and glides into the rift of a cottonwood tree. And the buzzard sails on. He comes and is gone, stately and still, like a ship at sea. And I wonder why I do not care for the things that are, like the things that were. Does half my heart lie buried there in Texas, down by the Rio Grande? Frank Dupre wrote that. I'll do a lighter one, a quick one. The bunny poem. D.W. Grothe wrote this. Driving through the midnight hour, clipping down the trail, we was headed back from Utah on the last legs of our tail. 20 hours of riding hard from down the old Southwest. We was more than plenty tired, and our eyes were craving rest. We finally hit the Black Hills, and the end was nigh in sight. We caught ourselves a second wind and flew on in the night. Well, from Belfouche up to Bowman is a mighty lonesome haul. Ain't much to keep you company sights that haunting coyote's call. The moon was full upon us, and the desert was aglow. And from the corner of my vision came a scene that froze my soul. There were bunnies in the bushes, in the ditches, in the air. There were millions, there were billions, there were bunnies everywhere. Their beady little eyeballs was a glaring mean and hard. I could smell the trouble brewing when the first one rammed the car. The suicidal little boogers was on a lemming kick. I thought even for a bunny, this is getting pretty sick. They careened out on the highway with no care for life or limb. We was turning furry bunnies into prairie terrapin. They wrapped around the axles. They gummed up in the tires. Parts was flipped up on the engine, on the manifolds and wires. Others whacked against the floorboard after kissing that old bumper. Now I know why Disney called old Bambi's bunny buddy Thumper. It was bowling in the Badlands with a strike at every throw. It was a bunny Armageddon in a P.T. Barnum show. But they finally started thinning out as Ludlow slipped away, and we crossed that North Dakota line in one bunged-up Chevrolet. And I heaved an everlasting sigh, just knowing that from here, all I had to worry about was open range and deer. D.W. Grothe.
I'm not on yet, though I'm on now. That light is shining in my good eye. Many of you don't know what that means, since I can't see out of this eye. That's pretty bright. Gotta have two eyes? Twice as bright. Oh. Pushing horns weren't easy, like the movie said it was. Don't remember dance hall girls or hotel rooms with rugs. The work's hot and tired and nasty. You rode your pony's head too low. And all them nights we couldn't sleep, it was too damn cold. We sang Strawberry Roan and Little Joe. Like the time we hit the river, the rain begun to fall. Water rising so damn fast, we thought it drowned us all. We lost a lot of steers that day, and 4 or 5 good mounts. When all the boys rode into camp, we knew that's what counts. We sang Whippy-Tie and Amazing Grace. Well, the night they broke behind us and took us by surprise, I whistled out to Bonner and saw the terror in his eyes. He rode his horse for all he'd ride. I know he done his best. He crossed over Jordan, riding Dunny to his death. We sang, bringing in the sheaves and the rugged cross. When you meet a cowboy, he's not ragged by his choice. Never meant to bow them legs, put that gravel in his voice. Just chasing what he really loves. It burns down in his soul. Wishing to hell that he'd been born 100 years ago. Singing Strawberry Roan, Little Joe. Still singing Strawberry Roan, Little Joe.
Thank you. Back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend, where the longhorn cattle breed on a lowly Jimson weed. Back in the saddle again, riding that range once more, toting my old 44, where you sleep out every night and the only law is right. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-I-oh, I'm a-rockin' to and fro. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-I, I'll go my way. Back in the saddle again. Saddle again, out where a friend is a friend, where the longhorn cattle feed on a lonely Jimson weed. Back in the saddle again, riding that range once more, toting my old 44, where you
Sleep out every night, and he only love is right. Back in the saddle again. Back in the saddle again. Back in the saddle again. Thank you. Is that it? Zach? Chris? Thank you.
This first poem I'm gonna do for you guys is the first poem I ever wrote, and it's called "The Drifter." He was an old cowboy pushing cattle across the Texas plains, sitting tall in the saddle. He works magic with his reins, for they say he's lived forever. And his stories tell the most. They gather around the campfire and settle down to listen close. He tells the time he made his way across the Great Divide, and the times he rode with outlaws looking for a place to hide. But mostly, he just herded cattle, working as a hired hand. His first drive was in Kansas, working for the Bar C brand. Well, that drive, it took him out to Denver, 'cause the owner was to sell. The trail was long, the air was dry, and the sun was hot as heck. From there, he drove a bunch of stock, way up to Old Cheyenne, and then he pushed a herd of sheep across the barren land. Took a job as ranch boss on a spread in Idaho, then set out all alone one day and headed south for Old Elko. He took a break from ranching and worked the silver mines. The work was long and dirty, using hammers, picks, and tines. He made a lot of money, but he saved more than he spent, because deep inside he knew that he'd ride the trail again. He met up with some Mormons out in Bonneville, but after several months of plowing fields, he knew he had his fill. Agreed to ride the buckboard stage from there to Arizona, then saddled up his horse and made his way for San Antone. He knew he found a place that he would like to hang his hat. The grass was green, the water clear, and the land was vast and flat. So he built a house and raised some stock, and the herd began to grow, and now he's got the biggest ranch from here to El Paso. But don't you think he lives his life in luxury and rest? You'll find him riding fences and working cattle with the best. Thank you. This is a Larry McCorder poem, and I was thinking about Larry last night, and so I'm going to share this with you. It's called New Ropes and Skint Noses. 'Twas the day after Christmas, and the cowboy's young son, with his new nylon catch rope, put the dogs on a run. A tree was knocked over by his brand new string, and his mom soon regretted him getting that thing. He's a threat to us all, our home's safe no more. If he heals me again, they go out the door. Now, hun, just be patient, for he's learning a trade, and not but through practice are good ropers made. Now just look at the way he makes that thing whip, or the cat he just roped at, Mom bit her lip. All day he kept at it, and he caught all he could, and for just 7 years old boy, he roped pretty good. His father would watch him all, swollen with pride, but long since his mother had kicked him outside. The black goats and the chickens soon steered from his path, and not even Big Sister was safe from his wrath. The boy learned to throw true like chunking a rock, but soon the dogs bored him. He craved bigger stock. He snuck in the milk pens to stretch his line tight, but that wasn't enough. He sought the new height. Opportunity knocked fur just down the road. He saw his pa coming, a green colt he rode. Well, he shook out a big loop and hid by the truck. He'd double hawk that horse if smiled on by luck. When the horse came in view, he let his loop sail, but the loop went awry and ended up under his tail. Like a vice, that tail clamped and down his head went. He jerked little Junior, whose wee nose got skinned. Well, the trio parted ways and all went elsewhere. The colt to the pasture while Dad split the air. The boy ran to Mother. That colt stole my twine. Tell Daddy to get it. I want it. It's mine. When at last Dad came in, his face was troubled. He held Junior's nylon. One coil was doubled. "Come here, you little scamp," he said, spitting dirt. A scamp face peeked at him around Mother's skirt. "I'll teach you a lesson about healing a horse." But Mom, to the rescue, diverted his course. "Well, why, this morning you laughed and thought it was fine, while he pestered us with that awful twine. And I remember you saying, 'He's learning a trade, and not but through practice are good ropers made.' The boy knew no better. If you'd have set him straight, you wouldn't have got bucked off and come home irate. Now you think about it, 'twas you egged him on. You've reaped what you've planted, so just leave him alone." Well, that sure shut him down, and before long he grinned. He recoiled his son's ropes and said, "Come here, friend. Now this rope I gave you's a tool, not a toy, but I guess you're no worse than me as a boy. And that heel loop you tossed was just a tad late, so when you throw a rope throw, you'll miss if you wait. The steers in the meadow whose run you knows, a few shots you'll be needing today, I suppose. So let's go catch old Chubbs and I'll saddle Lil Wood and teach you to rope the creatures you should." They strolled across the barnyard. The grown-up cowboy took right there to healing the small, skint-nosed boy. Thank you.
Well, we'll get this set here just a little bit, and for us tall people, there's one gentleman, cowboy poet of Idaho, who's not with us here anymore. Is it on, Chris? Not yet? Okay. So he sat on this stage with all of us many, many years. He was here the first year, and he was here at the last he could be. So this song is for Wayne. This is one of Wayne Nelson's songs. The Depression was on, the country'd gone wrong, but he hand dug a well in Soul Cream. From the city she came with no more than her name, still too young to be scared of her dreams. In a little cafe down Montpelier Way, where she worked serving coffee at night. And the coffee he drank would have filled a stock tank. You could tell it was love at first sight. Well, his face turned red as he hummed and he hawed about taking her out to the dance. When she smiled her reply, he said, "Let's go for a ride. I could show you some things I've got planned." He bought curtains and lace, and he showed her the place, and she laughed when the front porch caved in. And when they kissed by the stove, she said, "It's time to go, for at 7 the dance will begin." And they danced to the Dry Valley waltz, while the moon through the junipers shined. And they blamed all their luck on an old Rio truck on the night of the Dry Valley waltz. Well, the truck wheezed and coughed, a mile left to go, so they left it to cough and spurt steam. As they walked hand in hand through the desert that night, from over the hills came a band. So he dodged some red ants and he asked her to dance, and they waltzed 'neath the stars bright and clear. and a punch bowl and friends were the only loose ends on a night they would always hold dear. And they danced to the Dry Valley waltz while the moon through the junipers shine, and they blamed all their luck on an old Rio truck on the night of the Dry Valley waltz. Well, the town folk remained for a while and complained, then drifted back home from the hall. For the bus had broke down just south of Georgetown, and the band never showed up at all. Oh, but out in the sage the music still played, and the crickets kept time with no fault. And boots and slippers did glide through the Idaho night on the night of the Dry Valley waltz. And they danced to the Dry Valley waltz while the moon through the junipers shined, and they blamed all their luck on an old Rio truck on the night of the Dry Valley waltz. And they danced to the Dry Valley waltz while the moon through the junipers shined, and they blamed all their luck on an old Rio truck on the night of the Dry Valley, night of the Dry Valley, night of the Dry Valley waltz.
Thank you. A little rough first thing in the morning. David's made it sound great. It's really hard.
Old Red was one of the orneriest yet I've seen at the big rodeo. He'd kick you and fight you, take out your life. Old Red had never been rode. Meaner than sin, wild as the wind that blew off the Montana plain. Old Red was one of the last of his breed, an outlaw that wouldn't be tamed. From Idaho, a young cowboy came to ride in the big rodeo. The young cowboy's name was Billy McLean, and Billy had never been throwed. The strongest desire filled young Billy's heart to ride this old outlaw called Red. He drew him one day and I heard Billy say, I'll ride him or drop over dead. Old Red was wicked down there in the chutes, kicking and stomping about. Billy climbed into the saddle with ease, then he yelled, turn him loose and let us out. Old Red came out with his head on the ground, his back heels were touching his nose, trying to get rid of the man on his back, but the man went wherever he'd go. Billy was doing right well, he could tell. He was raking from the tip of his nose. He was doing right well, but Billy could tell this outlaw would never give in. Old Red was running right straight for the fence, suddenly turning and then he fell on his hind back and fell on his back, taking poor Billy with him. There was a hush in the crowd and they knew that would be Billy's last ride. Trying to throw Billy off of his back, and under Old Red, Billy died. Old Red lay still, no more would he move. The cowboys that saw it could tell. And trying to throw Billy off of his back, and Old Red broke his neck when he fell. Out in the west is a place where they rest
the cowboy that never was thrown. And 1 foot away, resting there in the clay, is the outlaw that never was rode. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Get this back. Well, I think we got a little time. We'll start back and do one more. This is a poem I wrote about a friend of mine. It's called 2 or 1.5. He was known as Dennis, and team roping was his game. But after the wreck, 2 jumps is his new name. But he's a young head horse that Dennis is trying to train and tune. But he tries real hard, but every once in a while wants to jump over the moon. Dennis and Clint hauled their horses over to Chuck's practice pen, and like a lot of team ropers do, they'd probably leave a little skin. Dennis thought he had him warmed up by pushing some steers down the return and a rope around the horns out of the chute. All he had to do was turn. After a half a dozen of these, he felt like he was ready to make his run. Unknown to Dennis at the time, this was the end of the fun. As he stood up in the stirrups that pitch his loop, his spurs tickled just a bit. Oh, but he swallowed his head and threw a wall-eyed fit. Everybody comes running over and asks, "Are you hurt?" "Oh, no. I just like laying here with a mouthful of dirt." The spectators hadn't seen a wreck like this in years. A broken collarbone, busted rib, and gravel in his ears. Had road rash all down one leg and on top of his head, laying all crumpled up in the dirt, looking like he was dead. Austin, the eyewitness, said his first reaction was to laugh, but later said that 2 jumps was stretching it a bit as more like 1.5. The old adage of do no further harm went flying out the window as they slammed the door on his arm. So, if you're looking for a young head horse that has the potential to excel, give old Dennis a call, because young Buddy is now for sale. Well, it turned out young Buddy was sold, and now the rest of the story can be told. It was to Canada that Buddy was exported, and there to his old tricks he resorted. After the buck off, as to the injuries, where do we start? A broken pelvis and numerous other body parts. 10 days of laying in the hospital he spent. Contusions, concussions, fractures, and others merely bent. And as for Buddy, what did fate have to bring? Well, no, he didn't end up in Kessler's bucking string. Buddy became a world traveler, and to France is on his way, there to be enjoyed as quarter horse fillet. Thank you.
Gaily in front of the stock whips, the horses come galloping home. Leaping and bucking and playing, their sides all a lather of foam, but painfully, slowly behind them, with head to the crack of the fall, and trying so gamely to follow, comes limping the pearl of them all. He is stumbling and stiff in the shoulder, and he's stiff from the hoof to the knee, but never a horse on the station had half such a spirit as he. Give them all the boast of their breeding, these pets of the paddock and stall. 10 years ago, not their proudest could stand with the pearl them all. No journey has ever yet beat him. No day was too heavy or hard. He was king of the camp and the muster, the pride of the wings of the yard. But time is relentless to follow. The best of us bow to his thrall, and death, with his scythe on his shoulder, is dogging the pearl of them all. As I see him go whinnying by me, memories come in a whirl of reckless, wild rides with a comrade and laughing, gay rides with a girl. How she decked him in lilies and love knots and plaited his mane by my side. And once, in the grief of a parting, she threw her arms round him and cried. And I promised. I gave her my promise that day that we parted in tears, to keep and be kind to this old horse till age made a burden of years. So now, for his sake and one woman's, go fetch me my gun from the wall. For I have only this kindness to offer as gift to the pearl of them all. So hold him out there by the yard wing and don't let him know by a sign. Turn his head ever so gently, for I can't bear for his eyes to meet mine. Stand still, old boy, for a moment, for these tears, how they blind as they fall. Dear God, help my hand to be steady. Goodbye to the pearl of them all. Will Ogilvy.
They asked me, "What's a rodeo?" and I told them that I knowed. But to put it into language was a job that had me throwed. It's hooves and horns and hoss sweat and the smell of western dust. It's ranny hands to wrestle and it's bucking broncs to bust. It's ropes to catch a calf with and picking strings to tie 'em down. It's the daring do a horseback men. The range land comes to town. It's brammer bulls to straddle and it's bones to bust and bruise. It's the Olympics of the saddle, if you win or if you lose. It's men that pay an entrance fee for just one chance to win. And when all they win's a busted leg, they take it with a grin. It's roping horses smart enough that you'd think they'd been to school. And so they have. It's years they've been in training as a rule. With some old cowboy teacher using patience by the quart to learn 'em how to catch a calf and hold 'em like they ort. Of course there's rules to go by, just like any other game, but livestock sure can't read 'em, so it don't come out the same. For though a ball game can be throwed, and sometimes is I hear, you can't buy off a bucking bronc nor fix a bream or steer. The Wild West ain't as roomy as it was some years ago, but still it sprouts adventure, so we've got the rodeo. With men that's known as cowboys, keeping their horseback honor bright, by rope and spur and saddle, on four-footed dynamite. Thank you.
Really short and sweet.
As I was out walking and rambling one day, I spied a young couple a-comin' my way. One was a pretty maid, as fair as can be, and the other was a cowboy, and a brave one was he. He said, "Where are you going, my pretty young maid?" "Just down by the river, just down by the shade." "Just down by the river, just down by the spring, to watch the wild rippling waters, hear the nightingale sing." Well, they hadn't been there but an hour or so when he pulled from his satchel a fiddle and a bow, and he tuned his old fiddle all on the high string, and he played this tune over and over again. Then said the cowboy, "I should have been gone." "No, no," cried the pretty maid, "just play one more song." I'd rather hear the fiddle all played on one string than watch the wild rippling waters, hear the nightingale sing. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Tommy?
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Well done. And Tony gets this.